you have to learn a set of rules, and those rules are, A through Z, 26 rules. Once you know the set of rules, and you can start writing words. So think of math as a set of rules. You just have to learn the rules. Don't ask why. Just know that that's the rule. So let's look at fractions. So we know what a whole is, but a fraction, we have numerator and denominator, but we don't even have to know about numerator and denominator. Let's look at this bar. So when you have a whole, when you break something in half, right, you count 1, 2. So 1, 2. So this is how we're going to represent it visually. 1, 2. 2 goes down here. If we fill up, and so what do we have? So if we fill up both the spaces, we have 2 over 2. So we basically have 1, which is a whole. So let's do this visually. Let's break this up into 3 pieces. So 3 pieces, 3 goes on the bottom. If we say we only have one of the three, so we have a third. You see how this is going? Don't ask why. That's the way it is. See how this is going? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 goes on the bottom. If we have 3 of those, then we have 3/5 of the piece. You see how that works? Okay, simple, right? That's the rule. So if I break this up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces, right? See where the 7 goes? 7 goes always on the bottom. And I say I want, let's say 4 of those 7, then 4 goes on the top. So we have 4, 7. 4 over 7, 4 sevenths. Simple, right? So now I want to talk about multiplication. This is going to be very important to help you pass the test. So multiplication, we know, is represented by the times. Times. We can have 3 times 1 equals 3. Multiplication can also be represented by sometimes a dot. 1 times 5 times 1. Let's use the same number. 3 times 1 equals 3. Multiplication can also be represented by something like this, parentheses. 3 times 1 equals 3. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you see the X or the dot or the parentheses, it's still multiplication. Simple, right? Don't ask why, just know that that's the way it is, because once you know that's the way it is, it's going to help you solve some problems. Now, for the test, we know that there's an order of operations. And order of operations is, let's simplify this to be able to pass the test. We're going to do anything inside parentheses, we're going to do first, right? Anything inside parentheses, we'll do first. And then we'll do multiplication second, or division, and then we'll add, and then we'll subtract. Order of operations. And this is just to pass the test. Anything in parentheses, then we do multiplication, division, and then we'll add. So that's the order of operations. So if we had something like, 3 plus 1 plus 8 times 3 plus 5 equals. And if you come across this on an exam, you figure out, well, what do I do? Well, we know that parentheses equals multiplication, but then we need to understand what the order of operations is, and that's our second rule. You need to understand order of operations, parentheses, multiplication, add. So we say, well, order of operations. So this is how we're going to solve the problem. Order of operations. So anything inside parentheses, we're going to do first. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. So anything inside parentheses. So we go 5 plus 1 equals 6. So we can represent this by 6. And 3 plus 5 equals 8. I'm going to cross that out. I know I can represent that by 8. So Order of operations, anything inside parentheses is first, nothing more inside the parentheses, so we know what's the next after order of operations. It's multiplication. So it's like, okay, so let's do multiplication. So we know that, okay, remember, we had to learn this rule here, right? We said we can do multiplication can be represented by either the times, a dot, or something like the parentheses. So since we know that rule, and we have to be able to recognize the pattern. So what do you mean by recognize? Okay, so just like you learn, A, B, C, you had to learn that, you had to recognize what an A was, okay? So just recognize that when you see any number besides the parentheses and inside that number, that means. Yeah, sorry about that. Call came in. So let's go back. Set of rules were on multiplication. So you're going to see this type of problem on the test. So we need to know the rule that multiplication can be represented by the x, the period, or parentheses. X 3 times 1 equals 3. The period 3, period 1, multiplication. Again, 3. Multiply this, whatever inside parentheses. 3 times 1 equals 3. Just learn the rule. So then let's go back, order of operations. This is how we're going to solve the problem. Do anything inside the parentheses first, then we do multiplication, then we do add, subtract. Very simple. And you know what? You can write this down because when you take exams, you're able to use calculator. So just, write this down. So let's go ahead and solve the problem. Order of operations. I'm looking at this problem and I'm like, okay, so, and again, there's nothing complicated about these problems. So, let's go ahead and solve whatever in parentheses, and we see a plus sign, so we're just going to multiply. We're just going to add 5 plus 1 equals 6. We put the 6 down there. 3 plus 5 is 8. Okay, 8 down there. So now we have, if you can rewrite it if you want, 3, 6 plus 8, 8 equals what? Now, order of operations, parentheses, multiplication, addition. So we do see the add sign, but order of operations tells that after we do whatever's in parentheses, then we have to do multiplication. Do we see the multiplication? You may not see it, but then go back over here. We can represent multiplication by how many ways? 3 ways. So let's go ahead and do it. So 3 times 6 is what? 18. We didn't do nothing with that. We bring it down. 8 times 8 is 64. And then we're done. Add 18 and 64. 12, 6, 8, 82. So that's how you solve the problem. So again, if you see this problem, you're able to solve, you're able to break it down. And how did we break it down? Well, we knew, there's 3 different types of ways we can represent multiplication. And then we had our order of operations, and we solved the problem. Simple.